Oh, hi there. Thanks for joining us today as we dive into childhood traumatic grief. Don't worry, I know what you're thinking. A video on trauma and grief, that can't be fun. Well, I'm here to change your mind. The subject, you're right, it's not fun. And in fact, it's really difficult. But together, I know we can create community and joy around healing. So let's do it. So why are you here? Are you a parent, teacher, coach to a child that you think might be experiencing childhood traumatic grief? Not exactly sure what traumatic grief even is? Then this video is for you. This video is an educational resource for child caregivers that will define and explore the signs and symptoms of childhood traumatic grief. Then, we'll dive into how you can better support and care for a child grieving through some fun, interactive exercises. This video has been prepared by Hanna Institute in collaboration with On the Margins for Hanna Summit at Home series. Our goal is to provide resilience, connection, and spiritual wellness to all in our community. And today, that starts with you. So we're happy you're here, and let's dive deeper into understanding childhood traumatic grief. Let's start with the basics. What is traumatic grief? Great question. Let's ask the expert. Oh, hi. Welcome to Hanna Institute. I'm Dr. Grieving. Spelt the same, pronounced differently. Nice to meet you. Today we'll be diving into trauma and grief, which we at the Institute like to refer to as traumatic grief. You see what I did there? Wow! But first, let's play some Institute Jeopardy. Over to you, Bill. For 500. What is a response to a deeply distressing or disturbing event that overwhelms our ability to cope? Ooh, what is trauma? Yes, thank you. It is important to note that simply experiencing trauma does not mean that we will be traumatized or have long-lasting effects. Thank you for that reminder. You never know what you'll learn here on Hanna Jeopardy. Okay, next question for 700. What is a response to loss, particularly to the loss of someone or something that has died? What is grief? Yes! When we talk about children experiencing grief, they often show a range of emotions and reactions to the loss of a person, pet, or significant part of their life. Sometimes a child can feel really sad or show changes in behavior, like being less interested in usual activities, changes in sleeping and eating patterns, or just being more irritable. And sometimes they're ready to play, and there are no large symptoms pointing towards their grief. So we define trauma and we define grief. So what's traumatic grief? For 900 and today's Double Jeopardy, the question is, what is the overlap of a traumatic experience and the feeling of loss that can overwhelm and get in the way of the usual grieving process? Ooh, this is a hard one, Bill. But I heard you say traumatic, and I also heard you say a feeling of loss, which sounds like grief. But you also said it could get in the way of the grieving process. I think I know what it is. I'm going to need your answer. What is traumatic grief? I can't believe I won. Let's explore further. So grief is pretty different than traumatic grief. Children experiencing grief usually want to talk about the person or loss, do things to remember them, or sometimes find comfort in thinking about the person or loss. Sometimes this looks like small or large changes in behavior. Now, children experiencing traumatic grief can experience all of the same symptoms of normal grief, but also can get stuck on the traumatic parts of the death and cannot process their grief beyond the traumatic event. This often looks like thinking or talking about the person who died, leading them to focus on the way they died. If this sounds hard to know the difference, it is, but there's hope. I am an expert after all. By the end of this video, we hope to give you some tools for recognizing the signs and symptoms of traumatic grief. Oh, my next telehealth appointment is here. I gotta look smart. I think you're on mute. There's the mute button. You think I'd know by now. Anyway, how are you feeling today? Tell me about the symptoms you're experiencing.
Ugh.
I see.
You know, Doc, on top of being sick, I'm really sick of living through a global pandemic.
I get it. These symptoms are all too common nowadays. Coronavirus has disrupted and restricted the ways in which people are normally able to mourn the loss of a loved one. It has taken away the community that usually helps us grieve and has made even expected deaths more traumatic.
Wow, that's exactly how I'm feeling. It's like COVID-19 is this added layer of stress for all of us, and especially when we experience loss.
Exactly. Well, how about this? Why don't you stay on Zoom and turn off your camera as we explore the signs and symptoms of traumatic grief?
Achoo!
Why don't I put you on mute as well? Okay, we're back. So if you have a curious mind like myself, you might be starting to wonder about the signs and symptoms associated with traumatic grief in children, yes? I thought so. While some signs of traumatic grief show up right away in the first month or two after experiencing a traumatic loss, for some children, it could take years to reveal the signs. I said it could take years to reveal the signs. There we are, the signs I was looking for. These signs can show up right away or they can take a while, like mine. But what do these signs look like in a child? Well, I'm glad you asked.
Is that my cue?
Yes, Smiley, it sure is.
Oh, great. Hi, everyone.
Folks, I would like to introduce you all to my dear friend Smiley. Smiley here is unfortunately not so smiley right now and experiencing traumatic grief. It's been a hard few months for them. Since they know what it's like to go through traumatic grief, I asked them if they'd be willing to come to talk to us a bit. Are you still willing to do that, Smiley?
Sure. If my experience can help someone else, then I want to talk about it, even though it's kind of hard.
That's really generous of you, Smiley. So tell me a little bit about the kinds of thoughts you are having lately, and maybe about your dreams too.
Well, I think about the person I lost a lot. It's like they are always in my mind. They run into all my other thoughts and sort of interrupt the things I'm trying to think about. The thoughts can be kind of scary, and sometimes even show up in my dreams. Well, nightmares.
I'm so sorry to hear that, although it makes sense, because those are all signs of traumatic grief. Intrusive memories about the death, and even nightmares.
Oh, wow! I didn't know that.
Yep, it's true. That's part of traumatic grief. And what about your other loved ones? The ones that are still here with us? Do you talk to them about how you're feeling?
No, not really. I actually think I am pulling away from my loved ones. I try to act like I'm not upset around them, and I really try to avoid any reminders of the person who is not here anymore.
That's pretty common too. What you're describing is a type of traumatic reaction that can make it difficult for children like you to remember or enjoy positive memories about the person you lost. It can be hard to manage what we feel after a loss and can sometimes impact how we interact with others and our environment.
Whoa! You really are an expert, aren't you?
Well, they don't call me Dr. Greif for nothing.
Are there any other signs that I might be showing that signal traumatic grief?
Great question. There are a few other signs. Let me ask you this. Have your grades changed in school at all? Do you have any trouble sleeping?
Actually, yes, to both. Are you a mind reader?
Not quite, though I do have a crystal ball around here somewhere.
Well, yes to both questions. I have had a really hard time sleeping lately, and I used to get straight A's in school, but now, well, not so much anymore.
That's totally normal. And it can be difficult to concentrate in school when you've gone through a loss. What about physical symptoms? Do you feel any different physically?
Not really. But then again, I'm made of felt, so I don't actually feel much physically at all. Ever.
Oh, Right. Well, other children can sometimes get headaches or stomach aches along with their traumatic grief. They can also feel more irritable and become extra aware of anything dangerous.
It sounds like there are a lot of signs and symptoms that go along with traumatic grief. I think if some of the parents or teachers in my life know about them, they might be able to help me now.
Absolutely. And by you being here with us today and talking about how you've been feeling, you've certainly helped all the people watching this video understand traumatic grief a little better.
Wait, this is a video? Am I going to be on TV? Am I going to be famous? Are we going to go viral?
We just might, Smiley. We just might.
Wow! I'm going to go tell my friends to look for me on TikTok.
Alrighty. See you later, Smiley. Thanks again. Oh, I forgot you were there. You scared me.
Wait, I have a question. First, love Smiley and totally get how traumatic grief shows up in children, but I was wondering if there are different signs and symptoms for different ages?
Great question. Let me screen share a PowerPoint that I have that details the specifics around this. Oh, wrong window. Now let's take a look at how grief and loss may show up in the behavior of different age groups. For infants to 2 years old, they might become more cranky. They may cry more than usual or want to be held and cuddled more. For children ages 3 to 6 years old, they may return to behaviors they had previously outgrown. For example, children who are potty trained may begin to have accidents or return to bedwetting. They may also be scared to be separated from their parents or caregivers. They may also have tantrums or a hard time sleeping. For children 7 to 10 years old, they may feel sad, mad, or afraid that the event will happen again. They may focus on details of the event and want to talk about it all the time, or not want to talk about it at all. They may have trouble concentrating on activities that they were previously successful at. For preteens and teenagers, they may respond to trauma by acting out. This could include skipping school, running away from home, and using alcohol or drugs. Others may become afraid to leave their home and become withdrawn. They may cut back on how much time they spend with their friends and feel overwhelmed and unable to talk about their intense emotions. For special needs children, they may have stronger reactions to a threatened or actual traumatic event. They might have more intense distress, worry, or anger than children without special needs because they have less control over their day-to-day well-being than their peers. Wow, that was a lot of information, even for me, and PowerPoints are my love language. I know what we need. It's time to bring in our full-time, with benefits, motivational coach. Coach! Listen up, people. You are amazing. You showed up today to learn, to support a child, to expand your knowledge of traumatic grief, or just figure out what it is in the first place. Am I right? And it is working. Those PowerPoints are long, but your dedication to helping a child is even longer. You got this. Take a deep breath in, let it out, and let's press forward. Thanks, Coach. We got this. Speaking of your dedication to helping a child through traumatic grieving, it's game time. You play a very important role in helping children and adolescents who are struggling to understand and cope with their reactions to a traumatic loss. Here are a few things you can do to help a child who may be experiencing traumatic grief. Coach? Rule number 1, make space for conversation. It's important to understand how the child views the situation and what is confusing or troubling them. So pick a good time to talk, stay calm, and try not to lecture, and just be understanding and allow them to share what they are feeling and thinking at any time. Rule number 2, be prepared to revisit the conversation. Yes, as children become older and acquire new information, have new questions or experiences, you should be ready to revisit the conversation surrounding the event. Make sure to seek support from friends and family to help manage your own grief and reach out for professional help if you're concerned that a child's reactions are affecting their daily life. You don't have to do this alone. Am I right, Coach? That's right. Rule number 3, acknowledge their feelings. If a child admits to a concern, try not to respond with something like, "Oh, don't be worried." That might make them feel embarrassed or criticized. Instead, try affirming their feelings. You could say, "Yes, I can see that you're worried." By acknowledging their feelings, you can help them feel seen and heard. You got this! Okay, so you might be wondering about what kinds of activities you can do with a child who is experiencing traumatic grief. I know I am. We all want to help kids through these difficult experiences, and luckily, there are some tools and activities you can use at home, in the classroom, on the field, or in your neighborhood. So no matter who you are or where you are, these tools are for you. The first exercise is pretty simple, and it can work wonders. It's all about breathing. Sometimes when we get anxious or stressed, our breathing can become very shallow. So here's a quick exercise to help explore regulatory deep breathing. Go ahead and grab your favorite stuffed animal and lay down on the floor. Place your furry friend right on top of your belly. Now, while you breathe in nice, slow, deep breaths, you can watch the stuffed animal move up and down, up and down, up and down. This type of deep breathing really does calm down the nervous system. And as you can see, it sends a pretty clear message to our bodies to relax. Whoa, that was super relaxing. I feel like I'm ready for a nap. No rest yet! We have 2 more activities to go. 2 more! You can do it! All right, onward. So sometimes when a child has experienced a traumatic event, using words to capture what they are feeling or thinking can become kind of difficult. But art allows us to access the emotional side of the brain and express our feelings in a way that can sometimes feel limited by words. So for this exercise, we're headed to the art studio. Oh, bonjour, mon petit éclair! Today, we will be discovering our inner artiste. The first step will be either to draw or find an outline of a gingerbread man. You know, the cute little cookies you eat in the winter that look like snack people. Magnifique! Then, at the top of your page, you will draw 4 little boxes, and in each box you will write one of the following feeling words: mad, sad, glad, or scared. With your boxes, pick a unique color for each word and color it in. Then you will color the parts of your cookie cutout where you feel those feelings: mad, sad, glad, or scared. Oh, you gingerbread people will be so magnifique! The final step will be to tell a story about your gingerbread person and their feelings. Use your beautiful artwork to inspire the story. This and your art will hopefully give a grieving child another form of expression when talking about their grief. It's challenging, no? Oui. I mean, yes. Art is an amazing tool we can add to our toolbox when helping children through traumatic grief. Last exercise, here we go! Welcome to the Hanna Gym. For our third exercise, we are going to exercise. See what I did there? We are going to get our booties up and shaking. You might be thinking, can this really help a child experiencing traumatic grief? The answer is yes. Traumatic grief can cause children to get stuck in their emotions, their thoughts, and in their bodies. This stuck feeling limits their ability to go through the normal grief and loss process. So what can we do? Shake it out! Physical movement like shaking and dancing can literally, on the physical level, help us get unstuck by breaking up the patterns in their body. Shaking can literally help us shake off feelings like sadness, anger, and despair. Plus, it's a fun activity that you can do together and even relieve some of your own stress in the process. How's it work? Let's start by planting our feet shoulders width apart and bending your knees slightly, relaxing your feet and hips and shoulders all the way up to the head. If the child has physical limitations, they should sit down or be cautious and listen to their body. Next, play the child's favorite music. P.S. Instrumental music is recommended. Then, start shaking. As Elsa says, let it go. Shaking for 5 to 7 minutes can release a lot of stuck energy and emotion in the body and allows our bodies to complete the fight or flight response that gets activated when we experience a traumatic event. Some children may experience strong, unexpected emotions during or after the shaking, and that's okay. It's all part of the process. Just remember to follow Coach's #1 rule and make space for conversation. And it's a good time! Am I right, Coach? Right. Well, friends, hope you're feeling energized by the breathing, drawing, and shaking exercises we just did together. Hey, Doc. I keep forgetting that you're on mute. I just wanted to say thank you. I'm feeling better already. I'm glad to hear it. And I hope you're all feeling better out there as well. And please know you are not alone, and it takes all of us to help children heal and cope from traumatic grief. See you next time here at Hanna. Thanks for joining us at Hanna for a deeper dive into childhood traumatic grief. We hope this video encourages you and acts as a resource as you continue to show up for children in this time of need. For additional resources to continue learning about childhood traumatic grief and how you can better help children cope with trauma, check out our video description below. Hanna is here to help provide resilience, connection, and spiritual wellness for all in our communities. Until next time, Coach, you got this.